In a small, peaceful town surrounded by rolling hills and dense forests, there lived two identical twin sisters named Eleanor and Abigail. These two women weren't just twins. They were inseparable in every possible way. From the moment they were born, their bond was something extraordinary. They looked alike, thought alike, and even seemed to feel each other's emotions without saying a word. If one of them laughed, the other would soon follow. If one cried, the other felt it too, no matter where they were. The people in the town often joked that seeing one sister meant the other wasn't far behind. They were like two halves of the same soul. Eleanor and Abigail grew up side by side, sharing everything from toys as children to dreams as adults. Whether it was playing hide and seek in the woods behind their house or helping each other with school projects, they always stuck together. As they got older, their connection only deepened. When Eleanor fell ill with a fever once, Abigail somehow knew before anyone told her. She rushed home from work, sensing something was wrong, and found her sister resting in bed. Such incidents happened so often that even doctors in the town began to marvel at their mysterious connection. Their lives weren't perfect, though. Like everyone else, they faced challenges along the way. When their parents passed away unexpectedly, the twins leaned on each other more than ever. Together, they managed the family home, took care of bills, and supported each other through the grief. Over time, they became pillars of strength not just for themselves but also for their neighbors. Whenever someone needed advice or comfort, Eleanor and Abigail were always ready to lend an ear or offer a kind word. Their kindness made them beloved figures in the community. As the years went by, Eleanor and Abigail entered their late 70s. Age brought its own set of difficulties. Both sisters started showing signs of frailty, aches in their joints, tired eyes, and slower movements. But even then, their bond remained unshaken. They continued living in the same cozy house they had grown up in, tending to their garden filled with white lilies, which were their favorite flowers. Neighbors often saw them sitting together on the porch, sipping tea and watching the sunset. Sometimes they'd laugh over old memories, while other times they'd sit quietly, content in each other's company. One chilly winter morning, tragedy struck the town. News spread quickly. Eleanor had passed away peacefully in her sleep. Her death left everyone heartbroken, especially Abigail. Though she tried to stay strong, those close to her could see the sadness in her eyes. Losing her sister felt like losing a part of herself. Hours later, another wave of shock hit the town when Abigail also passed away. No one could believe what had happened. It was almost as if Abigail couldn't bear to live without her twin. The fact that both sisters died on the same day seemed impossible, yet undeniable. The news of their passing sent ripples of sorrow throughout the community. People gathered in groups, talking about how much the twins meant to them. Some shared funny stories about the mischief the sisters used to get into as kids. Others recalled moments when Eleanor or Abigail had helped them during tough times. Everyone agreed that the twins' love for each other was unlike anything they had ever seen. It wasn't just a sibling relationship, it was something deeper, something magical. Preparing for a funeral under such circumstances was no easy task. Normally, funerals are planned for one person at a time, but this situation was different. How do you say goodbye to two people who were practically one? The townsfolk came together to organize a joint service, wanting to honor the unique bond the twins shared. The local church was decorated with hundreds of white lilies, filling the air with their sweet fragrance. Photographs of Eleanor and Abigail were displayed along the walls, capturing snapshots of their lives, from childhood giggles to golden years spent side by side. While cleaning out the twins' modest home, a neighbor stumbled upon something strange. Beneath the floorboards of their shared bedroom, hidden away in a dusty corner, lay a wooden box. Curious, the neighbor opened it and found letters, journals, and scraps of paper covered in unusual symbols. None of it made immediate sense, but the discovery sparked whispers among the townspeople. What did these items mean? Were they connected to the twins' mysterious deaths? The box was carefully taken to the funeral home, placed near the caskets, waiting to reveal its secrets. Despite the sadness hanging over the town, there was also a sense of anticipation. Something about the twins' story felt incomplete, as if the final chapter hadn't been written yet. Little did anyone know the funeral would bring answers and surprises that none of them could have imagined. The days leading up to the funeral were filled with a mix of sorrow and quiet determination. The townsfolk, still reeling from the shock of losing Eleanor and Abigail on the same day, came together in a way that only small communities can. Everyone wanted to ensure the service would be as special and meaningful as the twins themselves had been. Neighbors volunteered to help with preparations, bringing food to the church hall for those who would attend, arranging flowers, and setting up chairs. It was clear that this wasn't just another funeral. It was a tribute to two extraordinary women whose lives had touched so many. The local florist, Mrs. Clara, spent hours carefully arranging bouquets of white lilies, which she knew were the twins' favorite flowers. She remembered how Eleanor and Abigail used to visit her shop every spring to pick out seeds for their garden. They always chose lilies, Clara recalled to anyone who would listen, said they reminded them of purity and peace. As she worked, tears often blurred her vision, but she kept going, determined to make the church look beautiful. By the time she finished, the entire space smelled sweet and fresh, almost like the twins were still there, smiling quietly in approval. Meanwhile, others focused on gathering photographs and mementos to display during the service. Old friends and family members dug through albums and drawers, pulling out snapshots that captured moments from the twins' long lives. There were black and white pictures of them as children, dressed in matching dresses and holding hands. There were faded Polaroids of teenage adventures, riding bicycles down country roads, splashing in the creek behind their house, or posing proudly with ribbons won at school fairs. And then there were more recent photos, the twins sitting together, on their porch, knitting blankets for charity or planting new bulbs in their beloved garden. Each photograph told a story, and as they were pinned to boards or framed for display, people couldn't help but share memories sparked by the images. One man laughed as he pointed to a picture of the twins covered in flour, standing in front of a kitchen disaster. That was the year they tried baking pies for Thanksgiving, he said. Burned half of them, but we ate them anyway because no one wanted to hurt their feelings. Another woman teared up while looking at a photo of the twins handing out homemade cookies at the annual town fair. They always made sure everyone felt included, she said softly. Even if you didn't win anything, they'd give you a cookie and tell you how much they appreciated having you there. But amidst all the reminiscing, whispers began to circulate about something unusual. A neighbor named Mr. Thompson, who had been tasked with cleaning out the twins' home, stumbled upon something strange. Hidden beneath the floorboards of their shared bedroom, a room they had slept in side by side since childhood, he found a wooden box. At first glance, it looked ordinary, but when he opened it, his curiosity turned into awe. Inside were stacks of handwritten letters, leather-bound journals, and scraps of paper covered in symbols that none of them recognized. Some of the writings appeared to be prayers or chants, written in languages no one could identify. Others seemed like personal notes filled with cryptic phrases like "bound beyond time" and "two souls, one light." Mr. Thompson brought the box to the funeral home, unsure what to do with it. He showed it to Pastor James, the kindly old man who would lead the service. The pastor examined the contents carefully, running his fingers over the intricate symbols etched onto the papers. "I've never seen anything like this," he admitted, shaking his head. "It's almost otherworldly." Word spread quickly among those helping with the preparations, and soon, everyone was talking about the mysterious discovery. Speculation ran wild. Some thought the box might contain secrets about the twins' incredible bond, the kind of connection that allowed them to sense each other's emotions even miles apart. Others wondered if the items inside held clues to why both sisters had passed away on the exact same day. Could it have been planned? Was it coincidence? Or was there something deeper at play? A few skeptics dismissed the whole thing as nonsense, arguing that the twins were simply very close and nothing more. But deep down, even they couldn't ignore the eerie feeling that surrounded the box. Despite the mystery, life went on, and the preparations continued. The wooden box was placed near the caskets in the church, almost as an honorary centerpiece. Its presence added an air of intrigue to the already emotional event. People couldn't stop glancing at it, wondering what secrets it held. Would it remain closed forever, its contents locked away? Or would it reveal something during the service itself? No one knew, but the anticipation hung thick in the air. As the day of the funeral approached, the mood shifted slightly. While grief still weighed heavily on everyone's hearts, there was also a growing sense of excitement. Something about the situation felt unfinished. It was as though the twins weren't quite ready to say goodbye. Not yet, anyway. Friends and family members started sharing stories not just about the past, but about strange coincidences tied to the twins' deaths. For instance, several people mentioned hearing soft music playing in their homes around the time the sisters passed away, even though no radios or devices were on. Others claimed they saw fleeting glimpses of two figures walking hand in hand near the twins' house late at night. These accounts were met with raised eyebrows, but no one outright dismissed them. After all, Eleanor and Abigail had always been full of surprises. By the evening before the funeral, everything was ready. The church gleamed with candles and flowers, the photographs stood proudly on display, and the wooden box rested silently near the caskets, waiting. Townsfolk gathered outside, chatting nervously as twilight fell. They spoke in hushed tones, their voices mingling with the rustle of leaves and distant chirping of crickets. Though exhaustion lingered after days of preparation, no one wanted to leave. It felt important to stay close, to keep watch over the twins until the very end, and so, under the cover of night, the town waited. Questions lingered unanswered, and the wooden box remained unopened. But one thing was certain. Whatever happened at the funeral the next day, it would be unforgettable. For Eleanor and Abigail, the women whose lives had been intertwined in ways no one fully understood, deserved nothing less than a send-off as remarkable as they were. The morning of the funeral dawned gray and overcast, as if the sky itself was mourning the loss of Eleanor and Abigail. A fine mist hung in the air, dampening the streets and rooftops of the small town. Despite the gloomy weather, the church began filling up early. Friends, family members, and neighbors streamed in, their footsteps echoing softly on the polished wooden floors. The scent of lilies wafted through the space, mingling with the faint aroma of beeswax candles that flickered gently in every corner. It was a somber yet beautiful scene, one befitting the lives of two women who had brought so much warmth and kindness to those around them. People took their seats quietly, many clutching tissues or holding hands with loved ones for comfort. The caskets rested side by side at the front of the church, draped in white cloths embroidered with delicate floral patterns. Between them sat the mysterious wooden box, its surface smooth and unassuming but exuding an aura of mystery. Eyes kept darting toward it, curiosity bubbling beneath the surface of grief. No one knew what role it might play in the service or if it would remain silent throughout, but its presence seemed to anchor the room, as though it carried some unseen weight. Pastor James stood behind the pulpit, his Bible open before him. He cleared his throat softly, glancing around at the sea of faces. Though he had delivered countless eulogies over the years, this one felt different. How could he possibly capture the essence of two lives so deeply intertwined? Taking a deep breath, he began speaking, his voice steady but tinged with emotion. Today we gather not just to mourn the passing of Eleanor and Abigail, but to celebrate the extraordinary bond they shared, he said. From the moment they were born, these sisters walked this earth as two halves of a whole. Their love for each other was a beacon, a reminder to all of us of what it means to truly care for another person. As he spoke, memories flooded back to those in attendance. They nodded along, tears welling up as they recalled moments when the twins' connection had left them in awe. One elderly woman dabbed at her eyes with a handkerchief, remembering how Abigail once showed up at her door with soup after she broke her leg, even though no one had told her about the accident. Another man smiled faintly, thinking of the time Eleanor helped him fix his car engine despite knowing nothing about mechanics. She just stood there cheering me on, he'd later joke. But somehow, it worked. The pastor continued, weaving stories of kindness, resilience, and unity into his sermon. But just as he paused to invite others to share their own reflections, something unexpected happened. A low rumble echoed through the church, growing louder with each passing second. At first, people assumed it was thunder rolling across the sky outside. But then they realized there was no rain, no flashes of lightning breaking through the clouds. This sound was different, richer, deeper, almost melodic. Heads turned toward the source of the noise. To everyone's astonishment, the wooden box near the caskets began to glow faintly. Its edges shimmered with a soft golden light that pulsed rhythmically like a heartbeat. Gasps rippled through the congregation as papers inside the box stirred, lifting off the bottom as if caught in an invisible breeze. The music grew clearer now, filling the church with hauntingly beautiful notes that seemed to come from nowhere and everywhere at once. It wasn't a song anyone recognized, yet it felt familiar, as though it had been waiting to be heard for a very long time. For a moment, the room fell completely silent. Even Pastor James froze, his mouth slightly agape as he stared at the glowing box. Then slowly, a single sheet of paper floated upward, hovering mid-air before drifting gently onto the pulpit. Written on it in elegant handwriting were 3 simple words: "We are still here." A collective shiver ran through the crowd. Some people crossed themselves instinctively, while others whispered prayers under their breath. A few skeptics tried to rationalize what they were seeing. A trick of the light, perhaps, or a prank gone too far. But deep down, even they couldn't deny the strange energy permeating the room. It was as though Eleanor and Abigail themselves were reaching out, refusing to let their final goodbye go unspoken. More sheets of paper followed, rising into the air and arranging themselves into sentences visible to everyone. The messages read like letters written directly to the congregation. "Do not cry for us. We have found peace together, as we always wished. Our bond transcends this world. Do not fear death. It is only a doorway. Thank you for loving us. Carry our memory in your hearts." Each sentence appeared one after another, forming a narrative that left no doubt about its origin. These were the voices of Eleanor and Abigail, speaking from beyond in a way that defied explanation. Tears streamed down faces as people processed the words, their disbelief giving way to wonder. For those who had known the twins, this revelation felt both impossible and inevitable. Of course they wouldn't leave without saying goodbye. Not these two, who had spent their entire lives making sure no one ever felt forgotten. The glowing intensified, bathing the church in a warm, ethereal light. Shadows danced along the walls and the music swelled, wrapping itself around the mourners like a comforting embrace. It was neither sad nor joyful. It was something altogether unique, a melody that seemed to bridge the gap between worlds. People reached for each other's hands, drawing strength from the shared experience. Strangers became friends in that moment, united by the inexplicable beauty unfolding before them. Finally, the last message appeared, written boldly across several floating pages. "Live fully, love deeply, and remember, we will always be with you." As the words settled, the glowing dimmed and the music faded into silence. The papers drifted back into the box, which closed itself with a soft click. The room was plunged into stillness once again, broken only by the sound of sniffles and quiet sobs. Pastor James, visibly shaken but determined to continue, stepped forward. His voice trembled as he addressed the congregation. "I don't pretend to understand what just happened," he admitted. "But I believe it was a gift, a final act of love from Eleanor and Abigail. Let us honor their memory by living as they did, with kindness, courage, and unwavering devotion to those we hold dear." His words resonated deeply, stirring something within everyone present. Though sadness lingered, it was tempered by a newfound sense of peace. The twins hadn't vanished entirely. They had simply transformed, leaving behind echoes of their spirit in the hearts of those who loved them. And as the service resumed, the atmosphere shifted. What had begun as a day of mourning became a celebration of life, love, and the enduring power of connection. No one spoke much about the glowing box or the floating messages after the service ended. Words felt inadequate to describe what they had witnessed. Instead, they hugged each other tightly, lingered over cups of tea in the church hall, and promised to carry the twins' legacy forward. Eleanor and Abigail may have left the physical world, but their presence remained, a gentle reminder that some bonds are eternal, transcending even death itself. As the glowing box settled back into stillness and the haunting music faded away, a profound silence enveloped the church. It was the kind of quiet that felt heavy with meaning, as though the air itself was holding its breath. The congregation sat frozen in their pews, eyes wide with disbelief, hearts racing with a mixture of awe and wonder. No one dared to move or speak. They simply stared at the wooden box, now closed once more, as if waiting for it to spring back to life. But instead of another message or miracle, there was only calm, a serene stillness that seemed almost sacred. "Pastor." James stood behind the pulpit, his hands gripping its edges tightly. His face was pale, but his expression gradually softened as he took in the scene before him. He had spent decades leading services, counseling grieving families, and guiding his flock through moments of joy and sorrow. Yet nothing could have prepared him for what had just unfolded. For a brief moment he questioned whether he had imagined it all. The glowing light, the floating papers, the ethereal music. But when he glanced down at the neatly stacked sheets resting on the pulpit, he knew it was real. Those words, written in elegant handwriting, were undeniable proof. Clearing his throat, Pastor James finally broke the silence. I don't know how to explain what we've witnessed here today," he began, his voice trembling slightly. "But I believe it is a testament to the extraordinary bond Eleanor and Abigail shared, not just with each other, but with all of us." He paused, looking out at the sea of faces. Many were crying openly now, while others sat with expressions of quiet reverence, their minds struggling to process what had happened. They loved deeply, lived fully, and left an indelible mark on this town. And today, they've shown us that love transcends even death. His words resonated deeply, stirring something within everyone present. Though no one could fully comprehend the supernatural events they had just experienced, there was a collective understanding that this was not merely a coincidence or trick of the mind. This was Eleanor and Abigail saying goodbye in their own unique way, reaching out across the veil to reassure those they left behind. Their final messages, delivered through glowing pages and haunting melodies, carried a weight far greater than any eulogy ever could. Slowly, people began to stir. Some wiped away tears, while others leaned over to whisper to their neighbors. Conversations bubbled up hesitantly at first, then grew louder as the shock wore off and curiosity took over. Everyone wanted to talk about what they had seen, heard, and felt. One elderly woman, Mrs. Harper, clutched her rosary beads tightly as she turned to her grandson beside her. "Did you see that?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "It was like they were right here with us." Her grandson nodded solemnly, unable to find the words to describe the overwhelming emotions swirling inside him. Others shared similar sentiments. A young mother named Sarah recounted how the music had reminded her of the lullabies Eleanor used to hum whenever she babysat Sarah's children years ago. "It was so beautiful," she said, choking back tears. "I swear I could feel her presence, like she was wrapping her arms around me one last time." Nearby, an older man named Mr. Lewis recalled how Abigail had always been the first to offer help when someone fell ill or needed repair work done around their house. "She was practical but also so kind," he said, shaking his head. "And now I think she's still helping us, just in a different way." The wooden box remained at the center of everyone's attention. Even after the glowing subsided, it seemed to radiate a quiet energy, drawing eyes toward it again and again. People whispered theories about its contents, speculating about the symbols and writings hidden inside. Was it a diary? A spell book? Or perhaps something else entirely, a relic from a time long forgotten? No one dared to open it again, fearing that doing so might disrupt the fragile peace that had settled over the room. Instead, they chose to let it remain a mystery, a symbol of the twins' enduring connection to each other and to the world they had left behind. As the service continued, the atmosphere shifted noticeably. What had begun as a somber occasion transformed into something closer to a celebration, a tribute to two remarkable lives well lived. Friends and family members stepped forward to share stories, laughter, and memories of Eleanor and Abigail. Each story painted a vivid picture of the sisters' personalities. Eleanor, the dreamer who believed in magic and miracles, and Abigail, the pragmatist who grounded her sister's flights of fancy with practical wisdom. Together, they balanced each other perfectly, creating a partnership that inspired everyone lucky enough to know them. One particularly touching moment came when a childhood friend of the twins, Margaret, approached the pulpit. She held up an old photograph of the three of them standing together in front of their elementary school, beaming with youthful innocence. Eleanor and Abigail weren't just my friends. They were my family, Margaret said, her voice cracking with emotion. They taught me what it means to truly care for someone, to stand by them no matter what. And today, they've reminded us all that love doesn't end. It evolves, it grows, and it stays with us forever. Her words brought fresh waves of tears, but also smiles. People nodded in agreement, finding comfort in the idea that Eleanor and Abigail's spirits lived on, not just in the mysterious messages they had sent, but in the countless acts of kindness and compassion they had shared throughout their lives. Their legacy wasn't confined to the walls of the church or the wooden box sitting near their caskets. It was alive in every person they had touched, every life they had enriched. When the time came to close the caskets, another unexpected event unfolded. As Pastor James offered a final prayer, a gentle breeze swept through the room, rustling the pages of the hymnals and sending petals from the white lilies fluttering into the air. The scent of flowers grew stronger, filling the space, with a fragrance so sweet it felt almost otherworldly. Then, as if guided by an invisible hand, two petals drifted down, landing softly atop the caskets, one on Eleanor's, the other on Abigail's. It was a small gesture, yet profoundly moving, as if the twins themselves were offering a final farewell. The congregation erupted into quiet murmurs once again, some crossing themselves, others bowing their heads in silent gratitude. For many, this fleeting moment confirmed what they already suspected. Eleanor and Abigail weren't gone. They had simply moved on to a place where their bond could continue uninterrupted, free from the limitations of the physical world. And, in doing so, they had left behind a reminder that love, true unconditional love, is eternal. As the service drew to a close, Pastor James invited everyone to take a moment to reflect privately before leaving the church. People lingered, reluctant to break the spell cast by the day's events. Some knelt beside the caskets, whispering personal goodbyes. Others stood near the wooden box, gazing at it with a mixture of reverence and wonder. Outside, the mist had lifted, revealing patches of blue sky peeking through the clouds. Birds chirped cheerfully, their songs mingling with the faint echoes of the earlier music. It was as though nature itself was celebrating the twins' journey beyond. By the time the last mourner exited the church, the mood had shifted entirely. Grief was still present, of course, it always would be, but it was tempered by a sense of peace and closure. Eleanor and Abigail had given their loved ones the greatest gift they could have hoped for, reassurance that their connection to the world hadn't ended. Through their messages, their music, and even the subtle movements of flower petals, they had bridged the gap between life and death, leaving behind a legacy that would endure for generations to come. No one spoke much about the glowing box or the floating papers as they made their way home. Words felt insufficient to capture the depth of what they had experienced. Instead, they hugged each other tightly, exchanged knowing glances, and promised to carry the twins' memory forward. Eleanor and Abigail may have departed the physical world, but their presence remained, a gentle reminder that some bonds are unbreakable, transcending even the boundaries of mortality. In the days following the funeral, The town buzzed with quiet conversations about what had happened inside the church. People couldn't stop talking about the glowing wooden box, the floating messages, and the hauntingly beautiful music that seemed to come from nowhere. It was as though the entire community had been touched by something beyond their understanding, an experience that defied logic, but felt undeniably real. The twins' final act of reaching out to say goodbye lingered, in everyone's minds, sparking both wonder and reflection. The wooden box, now sealed once more, became the centerpiece of discussion. No one dared open it again after the service, fearing that doing so might disrupt the fragile peace they had witnessed. Instead, it was carefully placed in a glass case at the local museum, where visitors could view it under soft lighting. The decision to display it publicly wasn't made lightly. Some argued that such a personal artifact should remain private, kept safe within the family. But others believed it belonged to the town, to everyone who had known and loved Eleanor and Abigail. In the end, consensus prevailed. The box was part of their legacy, a tangible reminder of the extraordinary bond the twins shared. Visitors flocked to see it almost immediately. At first, it was just townsfolk stopping by to pay their respects, or satisfy their curiosity. They stood before the glass case, peering intently at the unassuming container that had held such mysterious power. Many reported feeling an inexplicable warmth when they approached it, as if the air around the box vibrated with energy. Some claimed they could still smell the faint scent of lilies lingering nearby, even though no flowers were present. Others whispered that they heard faint echoes of the same music that had filled the church during the funeral, a melody so soft it was almost imperceptible, yet impossible to ignore. Word spread quickly beyond the town limits. Journalists arrived, eager to document the story of the miracle twins and the supernatural events surrounding their passing. Cameras flashed, microphones were thrust into faces, and reporters knocked on doors hoping to interview anyone willing to share their account of what had happened. But the townspeople refused to sensationalize the event. To them, this wasn't a spectacle, it was sacred. They politely declined interviews, redirecting journalists to Pastor James, who gave measured responses emphasizing the importance of focusing on the twins' love and kindness rather than the mysterious elements of their farewell. Despite the media frenzy, the museum remained a place of reverence. Visitors often lingered for hours, sitting quietly on benches near the display case, lost in thought. Families brought their children, explaining the significance of the box and the lives of Eleanor and Abigail. Teachers organized field trips, using the exhibit as a way to teach students about compassion, unity, and the enduring nature of love. Even skeptics couldn't help but feel moved by the atmosphere surrounding the box. Something about it resonated deeply, touching hearts in ways words alone never could. One visitor, a woman named Clara from a neighboring town, described her experience in the museum guest book. "I came here expecting nothing," she wrote. "But, standing in front of the box, I felt calm, like I was being hugged by two kind souls I'd never met. Whatever is inside it doesn't matter. It's the connection it represents that matters most." Her entry struck a chord with others, and soon the guest book overflowed with similar sentiments. People wrote about how the twins' story inspired them to cherish their own relationships, to reach out to loved ones they hadn't spoken to in years, and to live more fully in honor of Eleanor and Abigail's memory. Back in the town itself, life slowly returned to normal, or as normal as it could be after such an extraordinary event. Neighbors checked in on one another more frequently, sharing meals and stories over cups of tea. Strangers greeted each other warmly on the street, united by the shared experience of having witnessed something truly remarkable. The twins' influence extended far beyond their immediate circle. They had brought the entire community closer together, reminding everyone of the value of connection and empathy. The garden where Eleanor and Abigail had spent countless hours tending to their beloved lilies became a gathering spot for those seeking solace. Townsfolk began leaving small offerings there, handwritten notes, photographs, trinkets that reminded them of the sisters. Over time, the space transformed into a makeshift memorial, vibrant with color and life. Someone planted new lily bulbs along the edges, ensuring that the flowers would bloom every spring in perpetuity. On sunny afternoons, people gathered beneath the shade of the trees, swapping stories and laughing over memories of the twins' antics. It was as though the garden had become a living extension of Eleanor and Abigail themselves, a place where their spirits continued to thrive. Even the local school got involved, dedicating a special day each year to celebrate kindness and community in honor of the twins. Students participated in projects aimed at helping others, from organizing food drives to planting trees in nearby parks. Teachers encouraged them to write letters to distant relatives or friends they hadn't seen in a while, fostering connections across distances. The initiative proved wildly successful, spreading to neighboring schools and eventually earning recognition statewide. What started as a tribute to Eleanor and Abigail blossomed into a movement, a testament to the ripple effect of their love and generosity. Meanwhile, the mystery of the wooden box continued to intrigue those who saw it. Though its contents remained hidden, the symbols and writings inside sparked endless speculation. Some believed the twins had discovered an ancient ritual meant to preserve their bond beyond death, while others thought it contained prayers or blessings passed down through generations. A few locals joked that it might hold secrets to eternal life, though no one took the idea seriously. Regardless of the truth, the box served as a symbol of hope, a reminder that love has the power to transcend even the boundaries of mortality. As months turned into years, the story of Eleanor and Abigail became legend. Parents told their children bedtime tales about the twins whose love was so strong it reached across worlds. Tourists visiting the town made sure to stop by the museum to see the box, snapping photos and leaving heartfelt messages in the guest book. Local artists painted murals depicting scenes from the twins' lives, capturing moments of laughter, tenderness, and unity. Musicians composed songs inspired by the haunting melodies heard during the funeral, performing them at festivals and gatherings. Through it all, the essence of Eleanor and Abigail endured. Their legacy wasn't confined to the physical artifacts left behind, the box, the garden, the photographs, but lived on in the hearts of everyone who had known them or heard their story. They had shown the world that true love isn't bound by time or space. It lingers, evolves, and continues to inspire long after we're gone. And though no one could explain exactly what had happened on that unforgettable day, one thing was certain: Eleanor and Abigail had left an indelible mark on the town and on humanity itself. In the weeks and months that followed the unforgettable funeral, the small town underwent a transformation unlike anything anyone had ever witnessed. It was as if the mysterious events at the service had sparked something deep within the hearts of its residents. People began to reflect on their own lives, their relationships, and the fleeting nature of time. Conversations that had once been avoided were now being held openly. Families gathered around dinner tables more often, sharing stories and laughter. Old friends reconnected after years of silence, mending fences they thought were broken forever. One of the most remarkable changes happened between two neighbors, Mr. Harrison and Mrs. Lowell. For over a decade, they hadn't spoken a word to each other due to a petty disagreement about a property line. But one evening, inspired by the twins' message of love and unity, Mr. Harrison knocked on Mrs. Lowell's door with a basket of freshly baked bread. He apologized for holding on to anger for so long, and to his surprise, Mrs. Lowell welcomed him warmly. By the end of their conversation, they were laughing like old friends, vowing never to let pride come between them again. The impact wasn't limited to personal relationships either. The local community center, which had been struggling to stay open due to lack of funding, suddenly saw an influx of volunteers and donations. People came together to organize events, clean up the space, and breathe new life into it. A weekly storytelling night became particularly popular, where townsfolk shared memories of Clara and Emma, painting vivid pictures of their kindness, humor, and unwavering bond. These gatherings not only kept the twins' memory alive, but also strengthened the sense of camaraderie among the residents. Even children in the town felt the shift. Teachers noticed that students were kinder to one another, resolving conflicts peacefully instead of resorting to arguments. One day during art class, a group of kids decided to create a mural dedicated to Clara and Emma. They painted two figures standing side by side under a starry sky, surrounded by flowers and birds. When asked why they chose this design, one little girl replied, "Because they're still here, watching over us." Her words touched everyone who heard them, spreading even more warmth throughout the town. As spring arrived, bringing with it blooming flowers and warmer days, the memorial garden, dedicated to the twins, became a cherished spot for reflection. Located near the edge of the forest, the garden featured two young trees planted close together, their branches already starting to intertwine. Beneath the trees stood a simple stone plaque engraved with the words, "Love knows no bounds, not even death." Visitors often left tokens of remembrance, handwritten notes, photographs, or small trinkets, at the base of the trees. Over time, these offerings created a mosaic of memories, each piece telling a story of how Clara and Emma had touched someone's life. On quiet evenings, when the sun dipped below the horizon and the world grew still, some claimed to hear faint echoes of laughter drifting through the air. Whether it was the wind playing tricks or something more profound, no one could say for sure. An elderly woman named Mrs. Thompson, who lived near the garden, swore she saw the silhouettes of two figures walking hand in hand among the trees late one night. She described them as glowing softly, like moonlight reflected on water. Though she didn't tell many people about her sighting, those who heard her story found comfort in the idea that the twins were still present, watching over their beloved town. The anniversary of their passing brought the entire community together once again. This time, instead of mourning, they celebrated the lives of Clara and Emma with music, food, and shared stories. A local band played cheerful tunes while families danced under strings of colorful lights. Children ran around with balloons, their laughter filling the air. In the center of it all stood the memorial garden, bathed in the golden glow of lanterns. Someone placed a bouquet of wildflowers beneath the intertwined trees, saying, "This is for you, Clara and Emma. Thank you for reminding us what truly matters." Throughout the celebration, people took turns speaking about the ways the twins had influenced their lives. One man recounted how he had reconciled with his estranged brother after hearing the twins' message at the funeral. A young mother tearfully shared how she had started spending more quality time with her children, cherishing every moment. Even teenagers, usually glued to their phones, admitted they had begun calling their grandparents more often just to chat. Each story was a testament to the ripple effect of love and compassion that Clara and Emma had left behind. As the night drew to a close, the crowd gathered around the garden for a candle-lit vigil. Holding flickering candles, they formed a circle around the trees, singing songs of hope and gratitude. The flames cast dancing shadows on the ground, creating an almost magical atmosphere. Just as the final note faded away, a gentle breeze swept through the area, rustling the leaves above. Many interpreted it as a sign, a whisper from the twins themselves, thanking everyone for keeping their spirit alive. Life in the town eventually returned to its usual rhythm, but the lessons learned from Clara and Emma remained etched in everyone's hearts. People continued to prioritize love, forgiveness, and connection, knowing how fragile life could be. The twins' story became a part of local folklore, passed down from generation to generation. Parents told their children about the sisters whose bond transcended even death, inspiring them to value their own relationships. Years later, when newcomers asked about the intertwined trees in the memorial garden, they would hear tales of the twins and the extraordinary events surrounding their funeral. Some dismissed the supernatural elements as mere legend, while others believed wholeheartedly in the miracle. Regardless of skepticism, one truth remained undeniable. Clara and Emma's legacy endured, reminding everyone that love has the power to heal, unite, and transcend even the greatest losses. And so the small town carried on, forever changed by the lives and deaths of two remarkable sisters. Their story served as a beacon of hope, proving that even in the face of tragedy, beauty and meaning can emerge. The twins may have left this world, but their presence lingered in every act of kindness, every mended relationship, and every moment of gratitude shared among the townspeople. Through it all, Clara and Emma's message echoed softly yet powerfully. Cherish your loved ones, live without regrets, and remember that love never truly dies.